Yeah. Okay, it's 5:30. I'll call the meeting to order. I'd like to start by recognizing that this meeting is respectfully held on the traditional territory of the Sycos First Nation, on whose land we live, work, and play. We have an agenda circulated. I've got a couple additions I would like to make. Item 4, economic development, and item 5 is budget. Any other additions or deletions? Seeing none? Yeah, seconder? All in favor? Carried. Okay. So we move straight on to item 3.1. We had the really good summary of the meeting you had, Carol, with the Chamber of Commerce and others. Do you want to give speak to that?
On that. Oh,
Oh my God.
You're in.
okay. Yeah, Shelley and I worked together on that, on just bringing people together, and our vision for that meeting was to create a space for community to talk. It wasn't about the DOV and it wasn't about the Chamber of Commerce. It was about just providing that space, inviting people to come together and talk about what they would like to do in terms of celebrating the 100th anniversary. So I think we had a fairly good turnout, about 20, 25 people. And I think Shelley did a great job of just kind of allowing everyone to speak, and we kind of took turns, and I took notes, and we just took down all of those ideas that people had. And I think it created some synergy as well. They were able to say, oh, well, gee, maybe we'd be involved in that, or, oh, okay, if you guys are going to do that, maybe we would do something else. Or so I think it was a good meeting for just that beginning and just allowing community to talk. At the end, there were questions about what the DOV would do, and I said that I was going to be bringing this to mayor and council, and that conversations would be had and decisions would be made. But that meeting was for them.
Yeah. Perfect. And it looks like it was well attended.
Like I said, I think we had about 20, 25 people, maybe 25 people.
Mhm.
And everyone was really engaged, which was nice.
Perfect. Does anybody have any questions for Carol? Ernest.
Yeah, it was great. I'm glad to hear you have that kind of attendance there, and shows a bit of enthusiasm, and I think every one of us feels that way too. So that's really good. I read the notes or the minutes the other day when we first got them, and it seemed like lots of different groups involved. So I was just organizational wise, I think we need to probably, if DOV is going to take the lead or however it's going to work, that we nail down some dates pretty quickly. The first thing, because if there's that many people involved, there's only 3 or 4 really prime weekends or something. They're all going to want to be there. You know, going to be a lot of same weekend type activities, I think. So that's maybe one of the first things that should be talked about with that. If there's any kind of priorities, or, you know, maybe the first ones that already hit the choice of date, or, I mean, I don't know how to work that, but just because I can see that being a bit of an issue. That's
for sure. I mean, you see the air shows moved out of August and into
exactly.
July, so that squeezes down the summer.
Something else, yeah.
Yeah.
And it happened already, so yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments there? Perfect. Oh, Councillor Young.
That's one thing I've been a little concerned about, because it's already April. In terms of finding opportunities for grants for celebrating this type of celebration, are we a little late in the game now?
Oh, but we're right on the cusp.
Yeah.
And when I sent out some information, I don't know if you received the extra information about grants.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's a couple of grants that we could apply for. They're both through Canadian Heritage. They're both due at the end of April. So the one is for really a celebration. And they will attach a $25,000 capital project to that as well. One of their caveats is that it cannot be Canada Day or Indigenous Day. It has to be a separate celebration day in order to be eligible for that funding. And then the other is the Legacy Fund, and they will fund up to $500,000 for the restoration of a historically significant building or that type of thing. Again, it's a year ahead of time, so they're both due at the end of April.
Councillor Lozay.
Do those projects have to be nailed down before you can apply for the grants?
I think I'd have to have a ballpark idea.
Okay.
And I don't think that's unreasonable. I think
Right.
that if council was to decide that we want to go ahead with one larger event, I think we could probably put pieces together saying, the project will probably, or the celebration will probably include these elements. If they change a little bit, that's probably okay. And we could always check with the funder afterwards anyway, if there were any major changes. So I think that one is doable. The Legacy Fund, I think, might be a little bit more work,
Okay.
but I have started to look into it just in case. And there's kind of a two-step process before you get to the grant application, and I'm on step 2. Again, I didn't want to go too far, but just wanted to see what kind of information they'd want. So, and I did include just some suggestions just because of the element of time. But yeah.
Thank you.
So, any other questions there? The beginning part? Well, and I think this will be quite organic that we go back and forth a little bit rather than the 3 points, 1, 2, and 3 laid out, right? Going forward, it is a shame that they can't be done in collaboration with July 1st, because obviously a summer celebration. What we did on the 90th, for those that maybe weren't around, is we did something on the day or of the weekend off, and then we did a bigger celebration in the summer, right? Yeah. So to collaborate with that, which I would think would be something we would want to mirror generally. I'm seeing nods generally around the room. But it is a tight summer schedule, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just looking for the air show dates again. Was it the 26th? Yeah. So my sort of feeling from past experience is you want to be at least 2 weeks away from the air show. You don't want to do it the week before or the week after. It's just too many things on, right? So perhaps potentially the 12th or something like that could be a date that we could target. Probably better than the 5th, just after the long weekend, right?
So are we thinking of like a one-day event? Like the district will host, and then the other organizations are looking at doing their own thing throughout the year? Like that's just not clear to me.
That's the discussion tonight.
Okay.
In a lot of ways too. I mean, not to jump in too first, but just to start the conversation, the way I would see it is I would love to see us do an event that is
Right.
the DOV's event and then other events I think we could provide maybe banners, we could
Sure.
provide flags,
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
right? But
yeah.
to try and support it that way. But I would see us doing, I mean, it is Vanderhoof's 100th birthday, and I think it's important
Yes,
that Vanderhoof
yes.
celebrates it in my mind, right?
Yeah, so it'd be a unique.
Councillor Martins.
Yes, I think that's a great idea. And are we looking to do, for discussion, like, are we looking to put on something really big that's free to the public, or are we looking for something that we could put something on that maybe would cost the public half of what it normally costs because we can get grant money or something to help subsidize it? Or are we looking at an outdoor event? I mean, then it's weather related, right? All those things, something big and weather related can be a little bit stressful.
Gambling.
Well, yeah, for sure. So I mean, there's all kinds of questions there that
Yeah.
before you can really try to even get some good ideas, like some of those need to be answered first.
For sure. Well, I know if Councillor Frankel here, you would say get Trooper on the phone, but.
Yeah, well, I could. Oh, I would probably even go a notch bigger than that. You know.
I was in a restaurant the other day and a fellow was taking a survey to bring to Prince George. What would you rather have, 5440 or Trooper? It was 100% 5440 in that restaurant. So just.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, but those are really good points.
Yeah, I mean, just because I guess that's how I think, but
Yeah.
I would think something even bigger than that. Like, remember, I mean, we're not nearly to that stage, but remember years ago when the BC government must have been 100th anniversary or 150 or something, when the BC government had they're traveling bands around the.
It was
Music
Canadian- it was
91.
the Canadian
90
government.
Yeah, Canadian government,
Yeah.
okay. And I remember I attended a few of those and they had pretty big name stuff.
They
Pretty
brought
big
Dwight Yoakam up to Fort St. John. They did, honestly.
Yeah, they did. They had big name people, and it cost the public far, far less than a normal going ticket price. You know, instead of buying $100 concert tickets, you're getting it for $35.
Yeah.
And seeing a big name act. And if the point of it is sure, it would be to break even, you know, including the grant money and a few ticket sales, could get pretty big if you can get a pretty good grant. You know, you could do something really big for our area that hasn't happened for a long time.
I was just going to mention with the community anniversary grant, they will, we could request up to 200,000 and it would be 100%.
Yeah,
So it's not that we would have to the district would have to put anything into this. They will cover an event 100%.
So, Carol, is that
Councilor
would
Bowman.
cover a band, that would cover bringing an entertainment in, or that would just cover a venue, or it would what would that cover? Would it cover paying for an act?
It would cover local artists. So local,
Yeah, where does that end?
yeah,
Must be Canadian.
Yeah.
but I don't know that it would cover a large act like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, if your grant is covering off everything else, maybe that still makes it affordable. I don't know.
Anybody else?
And I like that idea. We're already, but I also like the idea of trying to maintain a real minimal amount of money for anybody having to pay, because I can see two sides of this, but for me, I really want to make sure that anybody can just walk up and attend whatever we're doing. And I know, Ernest, you would believe that too. Just saying that it's nice having these events, especially in the year that we're, I'm hoping for the best, but it could be a challenging year in the next few years. And it'd be nice to have one of these celebrations where everybody feels they can just walk in, whatever it's going to be. And it's not going to be $100 for their family or whatever it's going to be. I mean, which would still be a deal if it's a big act, but if there's a way we can do something and minimize that impact on families, I think that's right. That's kind of where I'm coming from on this. And that's going to be a tough one to do, to make everybody happy and maybe bring them together. But I think that's the creativity we got to bring to this. And I'm sure there's people already thinking that way as well at the other meeting. So.
Agreed. Councilor Lozay.
I agree. I would like to see it not add up for families and for families. I'm thinking, yeah, it's really nice to have a big, band. But I think if we could really focus on making sure that the whole community can come together, children, all age groups, and that there's something that everybody's included in. I think, and we are a community that so many talents we are very broad.
Mhm.
And I would that's the celebration that I would like to see.
Mr. Martins.
I think that's really important, what you guys said. I agree totally. A couple things that does, if you make it, let's call it free to the public, it almost guarantees a full house and a great event.
Mhm.
You know, if it lowered your caliber of entertainment maybe one notch, but the event was a huge success, that might be better than having a higher caliber and half full, so to speak. You know what I mean? So I think that's a great direction to head, is to try and let's make it so it's free to attend. You know, I mean, that does, big crowds also increase a few other risks and stuff too, but I think that'd be something that everybody'd be very proud to go to.
And maybe just to make it so people would want to be there, maybe we look at, the food or whatever that could be part of that evening, like I'm sure it's already been brought up, a community barbecue or whatever kind of thing, but if we had something that was a little different, and we could, sure Tom could spin off 100 ideas that we could be barbecuing up down there. But if we made it something where we talk to local producers too, and just, celebrating, what's being grown in the valley, and we could do a lot of things, I think, around that to make it be
And
this
depending
big.
on who the act is too, you explain what it is and what the purpose is, and they need something for it too, but they're gonna get great credit for it. And then I laughed, I was just thinking to myself the other day, then, if we got a big band going, then we could, the DOV could put a band together and we could do the opening act.
Well, I think that'd be a good idea, because then you get all the fruits and vegetables thrown at you. And then you'd have
And
all
that'll
that.
bring the cost down a bit.
Yeah, we have the salads already there.
Good ideas. Yeah, Cindy's a player.
You got a tambourine too? Cowbell.
So, and we're going through this quite organically, committee of the whole style loose conversation, which is good, and it's what we kind of want here, is this this brainstorming exercise. But just thinking, we're quite a ways down, talking about having an act here, a musical act, and I don't want to have that be a forgiven. Is that the direction we want to go, right? And is that not the only option by any means? But I just want to make sure we don't just.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go
Well, I
ahead,
think
Councillor Lozey.
music is a big, and so, music is huge part. And so I would envision, I mean, there's different genres of music that could be playing throughout the day, right? And then similar to, but we've got, there's different genres, different artists. So rather than, like, for me personally, rather than one big, and Trooper is not my favorite band, by the way. I never did like them, but would be, just to see some variety. That's what my thought would be, and that's a celebratory kind of atmosphere.
For sure. And that's yeah. We can get into other thoughts there, but that's where, if you had something bigger, you can either have something the night before too that was more
Sure.
local,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
do combine events that way and combine opportunities, right?
Yeah.
There's all sorts of things there, but I didn't want to go too far down the music path without making sure. I'm seeing nodding heads. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't mean it.
No.
No.
It just reminded me.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
mine too. But
I like the idea, though, of having maybe not the day of the big celebration, but kind of like a prelude to it the night before, bringing in a band, like let's start the party tonight. Do you know what I mean? And bringing in a larger act. So start it the night before and then, yeah.
So do we need to look at, so on July 1st, we expect that to be a big thing still, right? And you're saying this would happen on the 12th?
Well, I was just throwing that out
That I
there,
know, so I'm
trying
just-
to spitball.
So, because that, do we look at what we're going to do on the 12th? Because that might say, okay, then we won't be doing, sorry, on the 1st, and we won't be doing those things maybe on the 12th then, Like what would the first look like? Because if we're gonna have like some kind of barbecue thing where we're going on there, well, why would we do that 2 weeks later? So do we, and we know that's gonna happen on the 1st, because it doesn't change. It's sort of, it's in stone. So what would we want to really invest into that date? And then decide what other things that would be different from that to be on, if it's gonna be close to it. Because otherwise, we're just almost replicating the day again. I don't think that would be what we want either. So do we sort of plan that day and think just to keep things separate, or?
Council Martins.
That's a good thought too, because, if the reason the mayor threw the date out there was just because that was the air show date. And you don't want to be within, 2 weeks of that kind of either way. And if you go forward, then you're into August already, but it needs to be different than July 1st. It has to be, already got a big difference if we went the music route to go from there to the air show. That's completely different things, but it needs to again be different from July 1st. Whatever happens on July 1st. A good point for sure.
Is like July 1st in 2026 is a Wednesday. And so like if we did have something on the long weekend, then, it might be draw other folks who've moved away to come back, like a homecoming kind of thing. That could be another thought. But
Is it the 1st to 4th celebration?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Yeah, like a homecoming. And I guess what
Go ahead.
kind of things do they do then? Like if we're trying to think of an activity or a day that's unique from July 1st, then what are the activities that are typically done on July 1st, like the pancake breakfast? What do they do on July?
Well, starts out at Cypress
Sure,
in the morning
yeah.
with the walk, breakfast, then down to the park. And then it's up all day until the there's fireworks.
At the end,
Yeah.
yeah.
Depending on the weather and stuff like that.
Okay, this stuff in the park though, what is that?
That has been music.
Yeah, it's music. Definitely.
And usually there's a paddle in the morning, but the music generally in the park, we had like a local band on
Yeah.
the 90th, but other than that, it's a little more low key, general
Yeah.
singer-songwriter type or
Yeah,
small
yeah,
groups.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I've had the resort and I haven't been able to make a lot of July 1st. So sorry
Yeah.
about that.
So would we want to bulk up in terms of kids' activities and other things on the Wednesday? Right, because you
Yeah.
Historical Society does a great job on the museum site. They're doing all their things there. And then there are things that move over into the park. And then we just make sure there's things set up for the kids, because that's going to be a day celebration mostly.
Yeah.
Right. But somebody brought up fireworks. So what time? Well, there's a time where it's not too good yet to shoot fireworks up.
Last year, the fireworks happened because of fire.
That's right.
Yeah. So we could be right back.
The mayor brought that up.
You're getting pretty late anyway, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And the last few years have been fire bans, and we're still in a drought now. I'm like, if I was a betting man, it would. Well, for this year anyway, but who knows next year, right? But But would that make more sense to move it to the weekend after the July 1st? It is a long weekend, or you may get for a celebration. After.
Some people are gonna have a long.
I know. And the official holiday is on Wednesday.
Yeah,
It's a
so-
mess, right? Yeah.
But I guess we can't plan around.
Do
Offer.
yours and then they can plan to come. Yeah.
There's other noted on some of the minutes from your meeting there too, that some other people wanted to do a barbecue thing too. Some other groups were talking, well, they'll do a cleanup day and a barbecue where,
Yeah.
so maybe let other people do the barbecue and then there's already gonna be a few of those.
I'm just gonna go on record right now, if there's no fireworks in the first, there will definitely be. There'll be some fireworks. We're not doing that.
Carol, did you have something you wanted to add?
I guess like, because there has been such a problem having fireworks during the summer, it might be an idea that the day of incorporation, like the actual anniversary, which is January 22nd, maybe that's an evening when you do fireworks and hot chocolate and bring people out, as long as it's not 40 below.
That's a great idea.
That's a good idea, Karen.
Because you could do it quite early too,
Mhm.
right? Very.
Yes, you don't have to
4 o'clock.
Yeah.
No, but
3:30.
it'd be more child friendly if you did a kind of after work.
Mhm.
I don't know what day of the week that is.
It's a Tuesday or a Wednesday. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah,
It's during the week.
yeah. But you know, a
It's
6 p.m. show would be
Yeah.
awesome, right?
Yeah, and if you had hot chocolate. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Okay.
And even other events that happen every year, like Pumpkin Down, for example, you know, that can turn that into 100.
That's what we've been talking about, every group that has
Oh, I
their
see.
things,
Mhm.
make them a part of.
Somehow relate
Yeah.
that.
That's what the chamber was talking to, right, Shelley?
Yeah, good.
So it was kind of an invitation for them. You know, some groups may not have capacity to do that, which is fine. But for those who have capacity and interest, they may be incorporating that 100-year anniversary into their events as well.
Yeah.
So to move forward, then I think are we agreed to doing something on the day? We'll look into fireworks. I think that could be really awesome.
Yeah.
Looking at doing something the weekend after the 1st. And perhaps even, I don't know if we can find things to do. I wouldn't mind that being a week of celebrations or
Yeah.
even, right? Like, let's find a way to accent that a bit
Sure.
and spread it out.
And I know we brought it up every time we have one of these, and we had one last summer, it was down in Stewart, and a bit of a street gathering. I think that would be a really popular thing to happen on the Friday, maybe always bring up those street dances that used to happen,
Yeah.
those kind of things, so maybe it's time to
Mhm.
go back in time and do some of those things.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Maybe some more local bands are playing downtown. That would be
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Right, so maybe that's something we.
Yeah.
Businesses are interested in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had kind of thought, and this is going back to my teenage years, when they used to have block parties.
Yeah.
And yeah, so you just kind of block off the street and everybody
Yeah.
kind of comes together and there's activities for everyone and
That did kind of happen, was it last year?
Yeah.
I'm getting old enough to know. And, other than the wind, that was a pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fun.
Right,
Yeah.
and I think a lot more people show up again if the weather, because
Mhm.
a lot of people talked about that. So why don't we do that more often? Be nice to hear from the business community if they felt that. I know it's easy for us to say shut down streets so people can't park for businesses. Seem pretty busy.
Yeah. That sounds good. So that's direction there. And I mean, there was in the one grant, the ability for, you know, some legacy money there. I don't think it was a lot, right? For,
So the legacy fund is actually up to $500,000.
oh,
Yeah.
was it?
That's huge. So it would actually, yeah. The other is the community anniversary. And that is, it's up to 200,000 and 25,000 of that could be a capital project.
So no,
Yeah.
Councillor Young, you've mentioned a capital project a couple of times. I don't know if that's something you want to.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I was bringing up the funding, because we might have to, when it might be a little larger, I don't know. Just right now, we have a small covered area down at the park. And with the amount of folks that we keep bringing up around artists and other things and other acts, it'd be nicer to have a larger covered area, and significantly larger. And I know, traveling around quite a bit last summer, I was at a few communities that have those, and it was just amazing. They're powered up. Similar to this, just larger, and you could fit in a few hundred people under there, no problem. I just think of some of the evenings that we've had where you don't have to worry about the weather. You're out there in a nice warm summer and it starts drizzling, doesn't matter. Everybody's under there. You can even think beyond that. Sometimes maybe somebody'd like to have a wedding reception or whatever. There's just different ways you could utilize this. And for me, I thought, talking to the mayor, to couple that together with the 100-year, it'd be amazing to have something that lasted after our celebration. And to me, that brings people together. It's that covered spot, right? Where I think we've all seen those in other communities. I mean, this has served us well. It's just that it's not just big enough, right, to do things with a significant group of people. So,
Just going to turn to you, Rod, for a second. Do you think that would be something that could even be entertained, or are we too late in the process to think about it? If something like that could happen.
Well, the legacy money, the 500,000 is for renovation of the historical building, right? So that
Right,
would
okay.
come to it.
that's what I was thinking.
The 200,000 would be the largest pot of money that only 25% you said can be used for capital.
25,000.
25,000.
Doesn't go very far.
So again, you know, there's not immediately, I'm not immediately aware of funding that would do large, you know, covered building, but you know, everything starts with a plan and get some prices and then start looking, right? So
Yeah, and there are other funds. I wonder if we did have that plan and just shared it, say, hey, you know what, we know we're late to the game, but you know, if you're looking at funding things in our community, if this could be an option, right? Because it could check a lot of boxes. Sorry, Cindy.
I'm just
Councilor Leslie.
looking at what Carol put out. It says involve the restoration, renovation or transformation of existing buildings or exterior spaces. With like an exterior space would be that, I would think. I don't know. And that are intended for community use, and also encourage arts and heritage activities that are intended for and accessible to the general public. So to me, that sounds like it would fit.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something that Carol could confirm.
You'd also have to numbers quickly too, because if
sure.
you're using laminate wood or if you're using steel or whatever, it's money. Right? Seen it going up in our areas.
Just wondering for that one pot of money, we talked about the artisans and potentially adding murals or whatever to outside of buildings. I mean, we've got a couple of probably pretty good buildings. I don't know how it works if the current landlords would have to chip in some funds to match, or would that be covered wholly because of this type of an event?
My sense is that it has to be. Oh, okay, yeah. My sense is that it would probably have to be owned by the district rather than
Oh, okay.
a private.
Just
But but Shelley did just point out to me with that. I mean, they talk about eligible products or projects, and one of them is an outdoor amphitheater.
Mm-hmm. Well,
It's a
there you
lot
go.
more than
That's,
25,000.
no, this is the one for
Oh, it is
500,000.
1,000, yeah.
That would, this would be kind of a multi-purpose piece, so it'd be amphitheater or covering for other things, like you could do whatever, and as long as there's power within it, right? And that's always been a bit of a stumbling block, as you know, every time you try to do something down there, so.
Councillor Lozay.
Yeah, well, when I saw that, the other project that I thought of was, we had talked about doing some kind of a garden or a area possibly with cycas to acknowledge the significant contribution from them to that community, to our community. And so I was thinking of a heritage garden or a natural park for kids. That was the other project that I thought would be, because Riverside Park, again, it's a place where community comes together, right?
So we can spend that 500 grand pretty quick.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think the first thing is we probably should be some discussion about what this should look like, and so that we know what we're asking for. Something designed and then.
Yeah.
approved.
Both these grants are April, right?
Yes, they're at the end of the month. Yes. Um,
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then the amphitheater is probably a little more than what a large covered area, right?
Yeah, we can talk more about what.
Yeah.
We'll qualify with.
And to me, I think that might be a nice next step, would just be confirming what would fit inside and what wouldn't, right?
Because you don't want to overcomplicate it. You know, it's gonna be one of these things that's out in the open, it's gonna be sturdy, it's gonna withstand the weather, it has to do all these things.
Yeah.
You could spend a lot of money if you're not careful.
Yeah.
It would be nice to have that. You know, after the 100th anniversary is gone, you know,
Yeah.
to kind of still have something that you remember from that time.
Mhm.
That fits into that, which obviously fits into that there too. And I think you're right, like here would, not trying to build red rocks here, like at a, you know, down in the States, we're just a good covered area that could be utilized for a lot of events over the year. And, you know, call it something that kind of reminds us of the 100th anniversary or something. Put a title on it that said that, you know?
Yep. First meeting after spring break's hard on us, I think. We're all-
It is. So you go ahead, Rod.
I'm just gonna say that, and I think the comment was made earlier, is that it seems like a long ways off.
No,
No,
it's not, no.
To undertake a big project like this. I'm a little bit concerned about it being buttoned up by July of next year.
yeah,
Because I think that there's a bunch of planning processes that have to go into place in
Yeah.
terms of getting it designed, that type of thing, but you know, is it, I don't think it's, I don't think that should be seen as a failure if it's underway and people can see what's
Even
being
if we can
built.
announce it at that time that we're successful in getting the funding for it.
Right.
And people could see and have the artist conception or whatever, I mean, say, maybe that's
Yeah.
Best case scenario is that this is happening. So.
Yeah.
I would hate to give up on it because it just seems like it could fit.
But it just, yeah, and I'm just
Yeah.
saying that
I
not to
agree.
dampen it, just to say that it probably wouldn't be all in place and the grass healed up and all that kind of stuff by next
No.
July.
No,
But it's something worth, yeah, I like the idea.
The most sensitive, time-sensitive thing right now would be to have this grant application filed by
that's it.
3 weeks from now.
Yeah.
That's the time-sensitive part.
Yeah, but this is a funding opportunity. It's not the funding opportunity too, right? So if we're not successful in getting something like that together, we can look at other things too
Yeah.
to try and go there. But yeah, I think it would be good to do some sort of a legacy out of it that does leave in the park. And I think that is something, I know we've talked about it quite a few times, that park is lacking, that could really enhance its use.
I was just gonna say that, probably so there is the one pot that's for 25,000 that would supplement with the hot chocolates, all that kind of stuff. That's probably doable at the end of the month. And the other ones, I agree that maybe they're not the funding opportunity that we can put something together, but I think if you want a bigger space, it should be architecturally pleasing to the eye and that type of thing, which there's nobody out there that's going to design that for us that quickly.
No.
Yeah, I think there's a way to build kind of a simpler design, but then make sure in the end we make it like it's from the area with different finishing in terms of, if it's wood and there's some sculptures are built in. This other, things that talk about maybe there's sturgeon, they're attached to part. There's just different things you could do. Or yeah, it's just a big basic building, but it says other things. But I agree with you 100%. More to it than just erecting a big jet. Good enough.
And I think, even if we didn't apply for that
Mhm.
that legacy fund this year, we could apply for it next year, during the year. I don't
Yeah.
see why we couldn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So that would give a year's planning
Mm-hmm.
and preparing for that. And it just wouldn't be built next year,
It
but.
could be announced.
Mhm.
Good thinking. Go ahead,
Okay,
Councillor Lawson.
I had written some ideas, and I forgot
Yeah.
to pull them up, so, yeah, so it'd be good to go back and talk about a kind of a legacy project that we could possibly do. But we were talking about how our celebration will look different from July 1st, and I just said games, foods, activities that were popular 100 years ago, so, it would be the dress and stuff, a tea and fashion show from 100 years ago. Just something. What's that? What's that? Oh, there you go. But just different things, right? Those are just some ideas.
Mm-hmm. That's good. So, next steps to move forward. I'm thinking that maybe my suggestion would be that 2 or 3 of us could put our heads together to think about, what an act could be and what the logistics of that would be. And obviously, if you're going to do something bigger, we have a PA, but it isn't of that caliber. So what rental would be, and I think we could throw that together in fairly short order. That I think would be what we're really looking for in a grant, right? Not to volunteer you, Ernest, but I might.
Yeah. No,
Talking about you.
I would gladly do that for sure. And I think could put that together, like you just mentioned, with 2 or 3 people and a couple of brainstorming meetings, you could put a budget together pretty fast for that event. You know, within a week, you'd have the hard cost nailed down and.
Yeah.
And, I seriously could text a couple guys tonight or tomorrow and just get some prices if we had an idea who to ask for, you know, what kind of
Yeah.
price range we're looking and so just those kind of things. And that's very important part of the budget.
Yeah.
You mentioned doing a big event where the district's sound system isn't big enough. Yeah, you can certainly rent all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's just part of the budget. Like that's.
Exactly. And, you know, coming up with those bracket amounts,
Yeah,
we won't
that's
have it
right.
nailed down, but this is the kind of
Yeah.
bracket for that and get that going. So,
It wouldn't be hard to just put a very basic budget together for that, and then we could at least have an application.
Mhm. Is that good?
If it's the 7th today, if I could have it, well, I guess as soon as possible, then I can put that grant
Yeah.
application together.
Is the grant application like a long tedious process to go through, or is it?
It's not, this one isn't horrible.
Yeah, okay.
So, you know, if I had a good week, then.
Is
that
part of the
gives me-
application really breaking it down, what this would be spent, this much of this would go there and that much would go
Yeah.
there and, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, they've got, you know, they've got a sheet that has to be filled out and I think I could work with it if I have,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then I can kind of pad the information as well.
And I'm gonna suggest maybe the first step though is maybe the people putting that together could meet with you and just get that exactly what you're looking for,
Sure,
right? Just so we make sure
that'd be
we're
great.
giving you what you want.
That's right.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah, 100%.
yeah.
So we've nailed the weekend or is it a 1st to the 4th? Like, because I think that's really important to have that nailed down.
Did you say that the first was?
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
So we not do a ton on Thursday, but look at Friday, Saturday.
Friday,
kind of.
Saturday is the big.
Use Wednesday to advertise it.
Would we still think about doing the street party, block party kind of thing, Friday or Saturday? Decide.
Mhm.
Look, it wouldn't be the same day as the big event, Friday, but Saturday.
If we're making it a, maybe just things to talk about, I'm just thinking as far as booking someone, depending on who's touring next summer, so to speak. But if we did a Friday or Saturday night, family oriented block party type stuff, you could maybe have this great big free 100th celebration show on a Sunday afternoon, you know, rather than a Saturday night. And that can also work really well in the booking process. If there's some big bands touring and they're playing Saturday night in Edmonton, guess what? They could be here for Sunday afternoon. It really makes, you're gonna get a lot better deal on the,
Oh, that's good.
on the purchase, you know. You could tie it to a weekend, they're already out.
Yeah.
Just little things, but it couldn't be big.
So,
Sure, that's good.
so maybe for now, we could say the weekend after
Yeah,
the first, and then we'll figure out that details and how it's
Yeah,
stretched
okay.
out
Good.
as we go along.
yeah.
Oh, geez.
So, Rod, should we have a motion to that effect? Would that be useful? No?
Well.
I just don't know how formal we want to get it. Yeah,
It's up to 200,000. I know we would, yes.
Well, we should apply for the full.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, that's,
And it,
At the 5?
oh,
500 is like
Yeah, so the community anniversaries is up to 200,000 and 25,000 of that can be used for a capital project.
Okay.
I'm gonna suggest, why doesn't somebody make a motion on one? We'll vote for it and then do a motion on the other. I would suggest we do both motions tonight and then it just cleans it up
Yeah.
and we can, because we're on a tight deadline, we're not trying to squeeze it into another meeting somewhere that we have that. And if we don't apply,
Okay, sure.
so be it. We can withdraw it at some other time.
I'll make that motion that we apply for the $200,000 grant. 20,000 of, 25,000 of it, which can be used for heritage stuff if we need to.
I'll second it.
Discussion? All in favor? Carried.
Need another one?
Because there was two grants, right? Two separate ones. So why don't we do that for that one too? And then,
Okay, I'll also make the motion then that we put that on the floor, that we apply for the $500,000 heritage legacy grant.
for the discussion, all in favor? That's carried. Great. So I think that covers that off for where council's at, and that's good with staff. We're awesome. We are having some, we have a logo designed, I believe, right?
I think Margaret had started that process.
Okay.
So I'm not quite sure where that's at. Logo design. Maybe, yeah, I'm not sure where
Okay.
that sits, but I can find out.
Yeah, that's in the notes, it says the Grand Rio had mentioned it.
Yeah. I think Margaret might have already moved on that, but we'll see. So it'd be good to get an update on where that's at.
I'd like to see an artist call out for the design of the 100th logo, and
Yeah.
that's their Rio Theater putting
Yeah.
that.
Let's find out if we've already paid somebody to do that and go from there. Okay, any other further discussion? Awesome, and that was really good, and that was very informal for those of you in the gallery. It was sometimes just good to brainstorm these ways, right? And you don't always have to be in the formal process of regular meetings. Perfect. Let's move on then. Item 4, economic development. I'll pass that over to you, Rod.
So just a little recap is that we have hired a consultant and MNP, and what their task is to assist the community in developing an economic development, but also a diversification plan in light of the economic changes that have happened with the closure of Plateau. So the first stage is nearing completion, which is simply, doing statistical gathering, data collection and things like that. And so the next stage is that they would like to come out and they'd like to interview up to 35 people one-on-one. And the idea is to get people that are kind of innovative, maybe forward thinking, and and again, this is not about telling the community what the future needs to look at but sharing those ideas with the community and say, this could be a possibility or whatever, just to help people envision what their future is going to be. So so at this point in time, even though they don't want to do the interviews until towards the end of May, they want to start getting in touch with people, start arranging for interview time and dates. And so that's the second part of it. And then the third part of it is they're going to do a summit, an economic development summit. And so that's when the public as a whole is going to be invited in to participate in focus groups and things like that. So if a person's missed in the initial list of 35 face-to-face interviews, they're still gonna get an opportunity to say their piece, right? And we're, you know, so, we're hoping that also that these interviews are gonna be with people that are gonna, you know, it's gonna get them thinking, but it's gonna get them talking in the community as well. And so the thing is that when the summit comes around, that you're gonna have many people that have spent some time thinking about what the future of Vanderhoof could look like economically. At the end of the day, what's the output of this is, you know, we're going to get a really good marketing plan, and then and in that it's going to highlight all the attributes of Vanderhoof that's going to make these economic ideas possible or feasible, and potentially attract as new people and new business.
Are they charging us for this?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's coming up under the REDIP funding.
Yeah.
So, so we had that initial chunk of cash that was initially, you know, it started off, didn't start off for the boat launch. Started off something else, and then it went to the boat launch. Now, just as of Friday, actually, so one of the obligations was to create this plan. So that's $120,000. And then the other 880, Friday, we did a reapplication to take that money from the boat launch and put it towards a commercial wastewater receiving station. So as of Friday, they've said we've got that.
Thank you.
Good. So there is a list of names provided by the chamber that came out in an email earlier in the week, but I just wanted to bring this up and have a bit of discussion, not to maybe name names tonight, but to make sure that everybody's thinking of who would be good to have on there, and organizations that would be good to have on there. And, you know, for me, it's like, well, FBX Nickel would be a perfect one. And, you know, some of those outfits out there. So fairly short turnaround to Wednesday. So I think we should make sure that we're really looking out there and looking for people really that do have that energy to look for what is coming down the road. Councillor Lozzie.
Do we want to talk about would they be interested in talking to people from the ranching community? Because there's some, you know, fairly young new folks that I'm aware of that have moved in, and just to hear how that.
I think they're interested in talking to anybody who's interested in talking to them and has a mindset of, you know, how can I build my business, or how can we improve this economy?
Okay.
You know, as you know, I mean, we're great at you know, cutting trees and mining and growing cows, but you know, how many millions of dollars worth of cows are shipped off here? And is there a way of, like, conversations could be, is there a way of adding value to that, right?
Mhm.
Could we, you know, have an abattoir or a meat processing things? And so anybody that has those ideas is definitely, you know, valuable. And not everybody after this process is going to break out in their own business. Not everybody's going to become an entrepreneur, but it, you know, even like having somebody from the mines, or like I added a bunch of areas where we could have people talk because, you know, it's about how do we train our local people that lost their jobs so that they're eligible for new employment. So all those kind of conversations as to how do we keep the momentum going is important.
And also to add, council will get a chance to put their input in there too, right? This is public members we're looking at here.
Yes, well, the 35 should include council members who are interested in being interviewed. The list from, just to give you an idea, the list from the Chamber of Commerce is 14.
Okay.
So we could, you know,
There's a lot of room.
Yeah, a lot of room for. Anyway, if you could send me those names, like people that, and maybe just a brief one or two liner of why you think would be a valuable interview, that's great, and we'll get them off to MNP And then the other caveat is that, should we be asking them if they would mind us forwarding their names? I think that would probably be beneficial.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and as you send those in, I would send it to Council 2022 too, just so we all know who's who's already been submitted, right? So we're
Yeah,
not
that- yeah,
calling the same guy 5
that's
times.
right, yeah.
Council Martins.
Abstain from that only because saw through the list, one of my family is on there anyway, so only 2 people from the same mindset, I think. You know, so I won't buy it then.
Good. Okay, thanks. I just want to put that on there so everybody gets a chance to do it. Item 5 is budget. Just been a couple of things that have come up afterwards that that I had a few questions around, and I just think I'd like to review. So I would like to bring that back to council in the next meeting or two, just so we get another, or do a special meeting, just to give another kick at the can on a couple of those items and make sure we're comfortable with where that final number was. Anybody have any objection to that? I just wanted to put it out there so everybody has a chance to. If they don't, then I'll work with Rod and we'll figure out a time that we bring that back in and have that discussion. Awesome. With that, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for coming in and making a special work. And thank you for everybody that came and checked it out.